Hello again. I began season 3 of Grandfather Philosophy with a video that I made for my soon-to-be ancient philosophy professor, or maybe I should say my soon-to-be professor of ancient philosophy, Jack. And I'm going to end season 3 with this video, which is basically a report to Jack on Aristotle and a thank you, a big thank you to Jack for helping me understand Aristotle. Today is my birthday. I'm 75 years old. That's getting up there. It's a number that I often see in the obituaries. So, reflecting in the wee hours of the morning about where I am after 75 years of experience, I came to see that I'm in a wonderful place. I want nothing. The only thing I desire are things that I have. I have had a well-lived, flourishing life. I have good fortune. And now, with Jack's help, I see that I may have something more. I may have the best possible life. Eudaimonia. Before I explain that, I need to go back in time. Over the last 20 years, I have told others that I'm a happy man, perhaps the happiest man that they'll meet that day. And it was true. And this is before I met Aristotle. I know it was true because, as I explained in GP12, my introduction video, I had worked to become happy. All the way back in 1977, I set a goal to be happy, and I achieved that goal 23 years later. It was somewhat of a struggle to become happy. It is a struggle to become happy. A big part of my learning about happiness was the field of positive psychology. That's a field founded by Martin Seligman, and his two books, Authentic Happiness and Flourish, explain positive psychology. A third book that was significant to me is Jonathan Haidt's The Happiness Hypothesis. Succinctly, positive psychology teaches that we can achieve happiness by developing our personal character strengths into character traits which lead to virtues. Positive psychology identifies 28 of these character traits. Haidt shows that they lead to 6 virtues. The way it works is, by exercising your strengths, you develop traits, character traits, and you achieve the virtues of temperance, transcendence, wisdom, things like that. You take a test, basically. I have identified my top strengths. The different strengths relate to different virtues. A couple of my strengths are judgment and love of learning. I exercise those strengths by, like love of learning, I exercise by going to school. those strengths lead to the virtue of wisdom. Other strengths lead. I have the strength of gratitude and hope, and they lead to the virtue of transcendence. To be a virtuous person, a person of good character, is to display by acts of will some or all of these virtues. They lead to the well-lived, flourishing life, happiness. Well, it turns out that this is pretty much what Aristotle had to say. When I got this crazy idea a couple of years ago, 2019 really, to go back to college and get a degree in philosophy, I started learning a lot about happiness and about how to live a good life. And it's not just book learning, it's practical. Philosophy affects you. Through philosophy, you can come to see how to live the good life, how to live the best possible life. Back in GP3, I said that we don't need modern self-help books, that everything we need to know can be found in the ancient Greeks. I'll tell you, there is no better self-help book than Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics. In it is the secret to happiness. In GP2, when I was just starting to talk about happiness, I said that there were two questions we needed to address. One, what is happiness? And two, how do we attain it? These are the questions that Aristotle addresses. Socrates said that we all want happiness, but we don't know what it is. Well, Aristotle answers the questions, what happiness is and how to get it. It's eudaimonia. So what is that? The word is a combination of two Greek words, eu, it's spelled E-U, and daimon, D-A-I-M-O-N, eudaimonia. Eu means good or well, and daimon means spirit. We will find this means to be well with yourself. Keep that in mind. That's crucial. It goes all the way back to know thyself. You can't find happiness if you don't know and understand yourself. Eudaimonia suggests that there is a divine element, our daimon. This is also crucial. We find happiness when we find truth. And we find truth through divine insight. This divine insight is captured in the Greek word nous, N-O-U-S. With nous, we gain knowledge and understanding that's greater than intellect, that thinking can provide. It is seeing in your mind's eye the whole of things, the truth. This goes back to my discussion of Parmenides and the goddess of truth in GP 13. It's the heavy stuff, but it's beautiful. It is a transcendent experience, nous. Nous is where everything comes together. It is not seeing God. It is seeing as God sees the world. This is the divine in us, our daemon, our ability to see the world as God sees the world. This is what I mean when I say that philosophy has an effect on you. If you put in the effort to understand this, and it does take effort beyond just learning some definitions, if you put in some effort, if you engage in this question, it will come at some point. It will all come together for you in your mind. You will see it, and it will change you. It will change you. Eudaimonia is more than the word happiness suggests. It is blessedness. It is the highest good. So how do we find it for ourselves? And that's the kicker right there. You have to find it for yourself. You won't get it until you get it. When I began these videos on happiness, I spoke about the lectures my grandfather was constantly giving me when I was a boy, and how I realize now that they were all about virtue, and how virtue relates to character. In GP2, I said it all boils down to character. I advised my grandchildren in that video to examine their lives and ask themselves, what kind of human being were they? How did they act, and what did that say about their character? This is where Aristotle begins. Aristotle is about virtue, ethics, character. At the time I said this to my grandchildren, I understood virtue ethics to mean that good character was the result of leading a virtuous life, in acting virtuously. The ethical man was the man who acted virtuously. Aristotle's framework for virtue is the golden mean. The virtuous action is the one that is the mean between two extremes. At one end is excess. At the other is deficiency. Find a moderate position between excess and deficiency, you will find virtue. You will be acting virtuously. For example, if you're dealing with the category of pleasure, something in the pleasure category, self-indulgence would be the excess, and the deficiency would be insensibility. The mean between the two would be the virtue of temperance. If you were dealing with confidence, the excess would be rashness, and cowardness would be the deficiency. The mean between the two would be the virtue of courage. Aristotle identifies 11 of these moral virtues, and the mean for the virtues is your mean. It's your mean between the excess and the deficiencies. There's not some standard. You make the choice of what it is. I understood Aristotle's teaching to be that we must actively engage in virtuous acts so as to develop habits of virtue that would result in our being persons of good character, ethical persons, which would lead to the ultimate end, and that and end, that which is good in itself, the ultimate end, that which is good in itself, eudaimonia, a well-lived, flourishing life. Well, that's all good. That's all well and good. But it turns out there's a lot more to the story if we really want to find what true happiness is. We tend to talk about ethics, morality, in terms of a code of conduct. We have different moral theories that we use to tell us if something is right or wrong. Deontological theories, consequentialist theories, divine command theory. We use these to determine right and wrong. They set criteria. They set rules. Aristotle tells us that these rules don't make us ethical. They don't make us ethical. So why not? Why not? Because, for Aristotle, ethics is a matter of who you are, your character. The ethical person is a person who has become a person of good character. It is about how you make judgments, not about any particular judgment. We all make mistakes. People of good character make mistakes, but it doesn't change their character. How do you become a person of good character? That's the question. How do you become a person of good character? Well, Aristotle teaches that it's through habituation of virtuous behavior. There is a relationship between what you do and who you become. This whole thing is a process of becoming, realizing your potential to become who you are. You learn to judge for yourself what is ethical because of your character. So you must engage in virtuous activity and become habituated to it to become an ethical person, to form your good character. It's these 11 moral virtues. Character traits lead to virtues. Habituation leads to virtues. Same thing. But once you have become habituated to them, you're done with that stuff. Your character is formed. Once your character is formed, you can make judgments about things, about the choices you make, which will be ethical because of your character. You are the criteria for ethical behavior. How is that? Good character is where you desire the good. Recall that I said in GP6 that seeking the good is a route to happiness. So desire is at the very heart of character. Our desires are based on pleasure and pain. We desire pleasure. Habituation teaches us to find pleasure in the right things and to find pain in the things that are not the right things. It causes us to know that we want the good because it causes us pleasure. If you find pleasure in what is the good, then you don't have any internal conflicts when it comes to making choices. You will want the good and be able to control any conflicting desires for what is not good. Because of who you are, you will be the master of your desires. And this leads to tranquility and blessedness. Blessedness. Virtue is about achieving arete, Greek word, arete. Virtue is about achieving arete as a human being. Arete means excellence. We seek excellence in the virtues. Once I formed my good character through habituation of the virtues and am engaged in making good judgments about life, I become fully human. Other animals can't do this. Now, in order to have the best life, I only have to pay attention to myself and what's going on around me, seeing myself, seeing me as I am, and seeing the world as it is. I have established myself as the criteria for making moral judgments. No moral theories are needed. I make judgments based on what makes me happy, and that is the good. My character is seen in the judgments that I make by others. Now here's where we get to the exciting part of the story. This formation of good character does not give us eudaimonia, not yet. It is the foundation. It is necessary, but it's not sufficient for eudaimonia. In addition to the 11 moral virtues, Aristotle identified 5 virtues of the intellect. Through exercising these virtues, we come to know truth. The most important for truth are episteme, and nous. Episteme is knowledge that is necessarily true. Knowledge that is necessarily true. It cannot be otherwise. 1 plus 1 cannot be anything but 2. Nous, which is sometimes referred to as rational intuition, although I prefer to see it as noetic insight. Nous is coming to see the whole of things in the mind's eye, to see the world as God sees the world. Nous and episteme together become wisdom, Sophia, philosophy, philia and Sophia, love of learning. The other 2 of virtues of the intellect are phronesis, practical wisdom. That's applying wisdom to matters that can be otherwise, and techne, which is art or craft wisdom. We all have within us some capacity to desire the good and choose what is good. Through habituation, we come to know through our virtues of intellect. We come to know what is good, and we form our character. We need more, however, to attain eudaimonia. We need to understand who we are, what we are, and bring that to our attention, to be aware of ourselves. We need to develop our capacities for desire and for desiring and choosing the good. Developing my capacity to desire and choose the good takes effort. I must be engaged with myself. That engagement is contemplation. Okay, do you get this? The activity of intellect, of engaging with myself, reflecting, if you will, is contemplation. Through contemplation, I come to understand what makes me, me, and to find the best in me. Go back to the meaning of eudaimonia, a good spirit. Perhaps we could say a good soul. To find this spirit, to understand myself, to see the divine in me, I need insight. The knowledge of truth that comes through nous. I can't find my daimon just by thinking. Nous is the most powerful thing in us. It's what allows us to see truth, that which cannot be otherwise, and have wisdom. It's what I talked about in GP 13. It is the divine insight that leads to understanding. It's more than intellect, rational thought. It's when you come to see in your mind's eye the whole of things, once again, to see as God sees, not through a glass darkly, with an imperfect vision of reality. If you have formed your character so that you know what the good is and you desire it, and if you come to understand yourself, you can have the best life possible. And this is the contemplative life. The contemplative life, the activity of the virtue of wisdom. Aristotle says that this contemplative life is the best life possible for the following reasons. Happiness consists of activity in accordance with virtue, and therefore it should be activity in accordance with the highest virtue, and this is the virtue of the best part of us. This is the part that knows what is beautiful and divine. The divinest part of us is the activity. It's the activity of this part of us, in accordance with the virtue of wisdom, that will constitute perfect happiness, true happiness. And this activity is contemplation. Contemplation is the activity associated with the highest virtue. Contemplation is pleasant. Happiness contains an element of pleasure, and activity in accord with wisdom is the most pleasant of the activities. Philosophy or the pursuit of wisdom contains pleasures of marvelous purity and permanence. Aristotle. Contemplation is self-sufficient. It requires only oneself. The activity of contemplation is the only activity that is loved for its own sake. It produces no result beyond the actual art of contemplation. Other activities seek to secure some advantage beyond the action itself. So, the philosophic life, the life of contemplation, is the best possible life. It is true happiness. And that's what Phil has taught me. And for that, I'm very thankful. See, I've seen a glimpse of this eudaimonia. Since I've been studying philosophy, I've learned to contemplate myself and the reality of the world. I just did my Thanksgiving videos, 14 through 17, where I contemplated the meaning of hope and fear and gratitude and happiness. The insight that I gained from my brief study of Parmenides, of becoming aware that my awareness is me, and that the only thing that exists is the now, well, this has affected me in a very positive way. I said earlier that it can change your life. There is a power in nous and in contemplation. The answer to how to live the best possible life is in Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics. I'm looking forward to reading it again in more detail now that I have some understanding of where he's trying to go. I encourage you to read about the book and then read the book. It's the best self-help book of all time. Give it to yourself as a Christmas present and engage with it. Engagement is critical to happiness. Now, I want to end this video and this series, really, speaking directly to Audrey and Jake, Luke, Teddy, Caitlin, Mallory, Lauren, Allie, Jack, directly. Speak to you kids directly. To use a favorite vulgar expression of my mother, your great-grandmother, Mama Joe, I could not give a fat rat's ass about what you major in when you go to college. But I implore you to at least minor in philosophy. All knowledge. Philosophy underlies all knowledge. Philosophy teaches us how to live a good life, and we all want to live a good life. That's important whether you become a teacher or an accountant or a lawyer, a scientist, a statistician. No matter what you do in your life, no matter what you do, you will do it better if you are a philosopher. So this is the ultimate message of grandfather philosophy. Be philosophical, and therefore have a good life.